Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Anime King 2, and I'm back with part 6 of What If Naruto Was a Seal Master that created his own Sage Mode. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends on your social media platform. And also, guys, don't forget to go ahead and check out the brand new What Ifs over the other channels if you're new. Yes, that's correct, I indeed have 3 more channels that I post What If on every single day for you guys to enjoy. All the links will be down in the description, so go ahead and obliterate that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. And don't forget to turn on the bell notification because I do post a hell of a lot. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this? Let's begin now, guys. So, to do a bit of a recap from the last part that we left off, Orochimaru branded Sasuke with the curse mark. Upon doing that, he was hit by a violent force that sent him sailing away. It was none other than Naruto, as Naruto immediately got to work, as he took on the Sannin by himself. A vicious battle then took place between the two, as they clashed against each other violently. However, Naruto focused on his specialty. He did not go in straight for the fight. He focused on Fuinjutsu. His efforts actually caught the Sannin off guard, as Orochimaru was not prepared for this high level of Fuinjutsu, as he was violently pushed back. The Sannin started to get pissed off as everything that he did, Naruto had a counter for it. Every move that he made, Naruto had something for it. Naruto used a gravity wave seal before he ignites an explosive, but this was no normal explosive. It was explosive inside of explosives. When they went off, the entire forest shook as a violent blast could be seen from all directions. Everyone felt the aftermath. The force blew in them slightly. Orochimaru was able to escape, but not without heavy damage, which he was humiliated by. Not to mention, with just one punch, Naruto had shattered every bone in his face. As the last time he felt pain like this was when he was hit by Snavi, when she was drunk a very long time ago. Ever since no one had been able to dealt this much damage to him, it was rather shocking, as he was fascinated in this power that the boy had. However, he was forced to leave because of the commotion, as Naruto made sure that Sasuke and Sakura was okay. With that said and done, Naruto had to wait. The moment Sasuke woke up, Naruto placed a seal on him, reducing the efforts of the curse mark. The Sound Ninjas decided to make a move, as Naruto captured them and placed them in what seemed to be a pot. The more power they used, the hotter it got, and the hotter it got, to the point that their skin started to boil, as Naruto started to interrogate them, bringing out questions and answers out of them. Indeed, they were sent by Orochimaru. Naruto made his golem swallow them, as it trapped them inside of its rock's body, bringing them along, as Naruto brought them to Haruka, who was there, handing Haruka the prisoners, because they were together with the Sannin, and they should be questioned about that. As they were taken to Ibiki, Ibiki came to speak to Naruto on behalf of the information that he possessed, as he did not want to start an international incident because of Naruto word alone, so he had to talk to him personally. However, Naruto was solid in what he said. So with that, a few days passed within the section of the forest, as Naruto had seen Ino in there. He was quite proud of her development, as she had come a really long way. Her strength had grown in a magnificent way that really and truly surprised him. As the preliminaries took place, Naruto came face to face with Kiba Inuzaka. As they battled, Kiba stood absolutely no chance, as it wasn't even a match as Naruto ended it within a couple of seconds. Ino's name was called to face Kankuro. She wanted to prove not just to Naruto but herself that her training had paid off. While she had gotten stronger and faster and her techniques were stronger, Kankuro was still stronger than her, and he poisoned her. However, Ino refused to give up even though it was killing her. Naruto started to lose his cool. Before anyone could even react, Naruto stood in front of Kankuro as he took the medicine away and injected into Ino. She took a breath of relief as Naruto held her in his arms. The only reason why Kankuro did not lose his life, why Naruto did not go berserk, was because of Ino placing a hand on his cheek, as she was surprised when she found herself in his arms. His body just moved on its own. He wanted to make sure that she was safe, and his body did so. He told Kankuro if anything had happened to her, he would have killed him. There was no if or but. He just told him straight out. When the exams came to an end, they were given 1 month to train, as Naruto was set up for the finals. As Naruto would be facing Neji, Sasuke would be facing Gaara. They were given 1 month to go off, so they made their way off. During that time frame, Naruto met Jiraiya. Jiraiya had never thought that the kid was this good. Not to mention the Sage mode was much more advanced than he thought. The kid had created a force of energy. When Jiraiya met Violet, he was beyond shock, unable to express his shock as he couldn't believe it. This kid was more than just good, he was on a completely different level, and Jiraiya just could not believe it. As the both of them sat down and talked, he started to learn more about Naruto and more about how advanced Naruto was in Fuinjutsu, and it truly shocked him, yes, as he couldn't believe that the kid had reached this far. But not only that, Naruto gave him a big surprise at the end of their training. He said that he knew that his father was Minato Namikaze. Jiraiya was shocked, as he was not sure what to exactly say, as he was just quiet, looking at Naruto. Naruto presumed that he would have to speak to the Hokage about what he has to do first regarding telling him the secret, so he simply allowed it to go on as he made his way off. However, that wasn't the only big thing that was going on. Violet, for the first time, came across the other being that was created when she came into existence, and they were gonna have a little chat. So yeah guys, basically that's what I thought of you guys again. Switch across the play, check the face up so to begin this new episode. I know you're there. Show yourself. Violet shouted out within the darkness as she waited. Behind her was a large purple aura that spanned beyond the concept of one's eyes. Laughter could be heard as Violet waited. When she finally saw him as he stepped outwards, his body consisting of darkness alone, until he reached at the intersection where she had all control. That is when she could truly see him. He had long dark hair that rested on his shoulders. He had white eyes. There was no pupil, they were just white. His body was cloaked in a strange black and white clothing. His teeth were sharp and black, like razors. He was the same height as her in her adult form, as he stepped forward with a smile on his face. I must say, it's good that we're finally meeting. I've been waiting on this for a rather long time, he said. His smile never actually leaving his face. Violet narrowed her gaze towards him as she just stared, not blinking, not moving. You're the one that has been harming father, and now that I can see you, I won't allow you to do it anymore. Allow me? he said, looking at her confused. You think you can allow me to do anything? He said as he took a step forward. Violet started to gather the power around her. As he backed off. Easy, sis, he said. I'm not your sister, she said. Well, technically you are. I mean, we came into existence at the same time. And I know that you can feel it as well. We're both linked. We're bonded together. However, since day one, you have been father's favorite. And since that time, you have been trying to push me out. It's not like that, and you know it, Violet said. You hurt father. When he taps into your power, you hurt him. You cause him pain. My power. Don't you see? Our power are one in the same. Except for a few small differences. I mean, father did created us. So why is mine different and why is yours the way it is? Violet did not know how to explain that. While her knowledge was becoming great and vast, she was not sure about this person that called her sister. You want to know why, he said? Well, it's rather simple. Before Violet could react, he cut the distance between them. As he plunged his hand into her stomach, her eyes went wide. He leaned forward and whispered in her ear. You're weak, he said. Violet tried to knock him away, but black veins started to spread over her body. What are you doing to me? Don't worry. I don't think I can kill you, but I can control you. What do you think I've been doing this entire time, while you were out there, living your best life? Well, now it's over because it's my time. Stop. It hurts, Violet said, as she wasn't used to pain. Oh, I know it does, he said, smiling at her. The next moment, Violet screamed as a mass wave of darkness spread over her before pulling together and trapping her inside of a ball. There was absolutely nothing that could pierce through it. Not even light itself, it seems. He stood there with a smile on his face. As he then stepped forward to Violet's side, the further he stepped, the more her purple aura got corrupted. It started to turn dark, a dark shade of purple before. Slowly it started to turn black and twisted. He threw his head back as he laughed, as he looked back towards the orb. Oh, don't worry, little sis. We're just beginning, he said. Time skip. Naruto stood on the Hokage monument. As his gaze was focused outwards, something was wrong, he could feel it. Violet had not shown up after meeting Jiraiya. He had tried to reach out to her. He had tried to step into her dimension, but he found himself unable to. He had tried to make contact, but nothing was working, and he was worried. As he's become quite attached to her, and now, not hearing from her, he was worried. A part of him said that she was just taking a long sleep, but another part knew that something was wrong. But there was nothing that he could do at the moment, as all the participants and people were making their way towards the Grand Central area, where the Chunin exams was taking place. Today was a very eventful day, as people from all over were here to witness and take part in said exam. A lot has happened since meeting the Sani and Jiraiya. Here's that Jiraiya had a sat down with him, wanting to explain in the most peaceful way possible. Perhaps they thought that he would be angry, but he wasn't. Naruto wasn't sure why, but he just wasn't angry. Maybe because he already knew. Maybe because he always knew who his father was. After all, think about it. Being there, sealing it inside of him. The face, the eyes, the hair. However, his mother was a different story. as he was actually able to see her. From a photograph, of course. Hiruzen seemed rather worried though, because Naruto took it too well. He expected some kind of action from the boy, but Jiraiya believed that Naruto was just more mature than he originally thought. The place was bustling with activities. Ino Yamanaka stood, along with Sakura and a few others. There was a smile on Ino's face. A lot has happened in the past 2 weeks. First of all, Naruto came by the hospital to visit her 3 times. And when she got out, he came by the compound. Her mother knew of him, but her mother has never actually met him because he's never actually came by the compound before. As her mother was teasing her, saying that he was delightful and charming, as she found herself blushing heavily, as she had no idea when these feelings started to emerge. Maybe they have always been there, but now things feel a bit more intense than ever before. Since he saved her during the preliminaries, she started to actually focus on what she was truly feeling and not hiding those feelings away anymore. Thus, when she saw him, a big smile came on her face. However, Sasuke was nowhere to be seen, which made Sakura a bit worried. She doubted that Sasuke was going to miss his own participation in the Chunin exams. Hiruzen Sarutobi got to his feet as he cleared his throat, drawing the attention of everyone. Using chakra to augment his voice, he started to speak with the people. How they use a Chunin exam to substitute war, to find a more peaceful solution. Always a strong talker as usual, the Kazekage said, as Hiruzen sat back down. He handed the reins over to the proctor down there. The man stepped forward, making the others head up to the podium while Shikamaru, Nara, and Tamaru was left behind. Meanwhile, as Naruto was making his way, as he was dressed in a black cloak that hid most, the only thing that you could see was the grey pants, mixed with silver that he was wearing. As he was wearing black sandals on his feet, he made his way up there as Naruto sat down. However, his mind was preoccupied, thinking about Violet, thinking about his latest work, a lot of things. 2 hours went by like that. That was how long the match lasted for, 2 hours, because of Shikamaru constantly evading Temari. However, when it came down to it, he gave up, as he was low on chakra. Naruto expected that, as he said nothing about it. His eyes were closed. Naruto held his hand up. The next moment he was standing in the ring. Everyone was surprised and shocked. Given his blonde hair was the first thing that they saw, it was a rather dazzling reminder. Even the Kazekage showed some reaction. Even Hiruzen was surprised. Could the boy have really done it? He thought to himself. In a way, yes. Naruto had seen the notes of his father. That was 2 weeks ago, when Hiruzen had showed him the notes that his father had worked on. Information that was kept heavily private. However, there wasn't much people in this world that could recreate it. From the details that Naruto found, he was able to mimic the technique somewhat. However, he only had 2 weeks. However, in just 2 weeks he was able to do the impossible. Unfortunately, he could not zip around like his father does. He could only teleport for one seal for now. And he also had a range, a very short one. Depends on the speed that he used to reach there. That was his drawback. But he was just testing it out. After all, once this was over, he could get back to it. The Hirishin, a very dangerous and powerful technique. As many people were left in shock and surprise, truly wondering what that boy just did. Or maybe it was just a mere teleportation jutsu. Neji Hyuga, on the other hand, did not look impressed as he made his way down there. The proctor looked at Naruto for a moment before he gazed towards Neji. Are the both of you ready? He said. They both nodded. Begin, The proctor jumped away as everyone went quiet to see how things were going to play out. Naruto stood there as he was simply looking at Neji. He was looking mostly towards his eyes. "I don't understand you," said Neji. "You don't?" "No. Haven't you already seen the fate that you will face if you were to fight me? Why? Why do you still stand against me? I've told you that your fate is determined to lose." Naruto had seen him during the break, and Neji had went on and on and on. "Again with this," said Naruto. Naruto stepped forward. "I did some research on you. Well, it was pretty easy. I had a really old influence. I know why you're so upset. I know why you're so angry. Your father was switched with the head of your clan to save him, and for that you resent him, and you resent everything and everyone. That girl, her name is Hinata Hyuga," Naruto said, looking at him. "Her father was the one that survived, and Yearn died." Neji clenched his fists. "What you did to her in the exams was truly brutal. It's not my place to get involved because, to be quite frank, I don't really care about you or your clan. However, you're one cold-hearted son of a bitch. There's no going around that. But you're also really idiotic and dumb." "What?" said Neji. "How could you blame a child for what happened to her? Tell me, could you have defended yourself if you were a simple child? You then went on to blame that young girl for absolutely nothing. What is your logic in that? What is your reason behind that fate that you so desperately cling to?" "You know nothing," said Neji. Tenten was shocked and so was Lee. It wasn't usual that they saw Neji lost his cool, especially so easily. He reached up and gripped the headband and tore it off. "You want to know why everyone has their fate? Because of this. It has shown me that this world is fated to how things are set. Similarly, like I'm fated to be locked away forever. And you are fated to lose here. My father gave his life. He was forced to give his life because he was a part of the branch member. You're right, you know nothing about my clan. You know nothing about me. You know nothing at all, so don't presume that you do. Fawning and spinning your damn words." Rage was spinning inside of Neji as he lost his cool by Naruto talking about his father like he knew anything. "Well, you're wrong," said Naruto. Neji's eyes snapped towards him. "Yeah, you heard me. I don't care how loud you get, I don't care how angry you get. What you did was stupid and idiotic. I'm not here to get revenge for anyone or do anything to please your clan. As I said, I don't give a damn about that. What I'm here to do is win, and that's what I'm going to do. But in the process, I'll show you that this thing that you hold on to, this bullshit that you call fate, means absolutely nothing." "Enough talking," said Neji. "It doesn't matter what you say or what you believe. You are fated to lose right here and right now." He dropped into his stance. "Byakugan, I'll end this quickly," he said as he tied his headband around his head once again and prepared himself. Neji shot forward as Naruto stood there. He brought his hand up and created 4 clones, quite a distance away, but judging from the location, they boxed Neji in. Naruto held his hand out as his chakra surged. The clones blur through hand sign. "Ninja art. Fuinjutsu chakra shock wave," they said. They slammed their hand down. Seals spread on the ground and surrounded Neji and Naruto. Neji was confused when suddenly he released a blood-curdling scream and gripped his eyes. All the Hyugas, including Hayashi, immediately looked rather perplexed as Naruto stepped forward. "You know, giving me time to do anything is one of the most dangerous things anyone in this world can do. After all, fluent jutsu is boundless and limitless. Granted, I'm the only one that can ever use this technique because of the amount of chakra I possess. Because let me tell you, it's ridiculous. If even a Jonin tries it, he will fall over dead. Even the most top class of Jonins. Even now, the amount of chakra I had stored up to perform this technique, it was quite a lot. You see, while your eyes can process a lot, it can process a lot of chakra, but it also has a drawback. I noticed that when you were fighting Hinata, the chakra shock wave, not from you but from her. I can tell that your eyes are stronger, so this field that surrounds the both of us, it's a concentrated blast of chakra directed right towards your eyes, which overload your stimulus. The pain is quite unbearable, and it's going to take a while for it to cool down. Don't worry, your eyes will be fine after this. However, this match is not going to last for much longer. Naruto dashed forward. No, you don't, said Neji. Rotation! He spun despite the pain. Yet Naruto did not stop. You think chakra can stop me, said Naruto. He thrust his hand out, each of his fingertips lighting up with the seals that were on them. Naruto ripped his hand clean through the rotation, starting to mix with the fluctuation of chakra. Neji, who was spinning unaware, but he could feel the gap. As Naruto started to push through, the seals on his hand breaking through the fabric of chakra itself. It was a direct counter with Naruto's chakra because his was much more overwhelming than Neji's. Even so, Neji kept on spinning. As Naruto thrust his other hand out, his sleeve started to be slashed up slightly. As he stepped forward, digging his foot into the ground when suddenly, he grabbed Neji by the throat, stopping him the sudden jerk, causing Neji pain. Naruto then slammed his palm into Neji's gut and held it there. That is when the force came. Neji spat blood as he was launched. Boom! He crashed into the solid wall. His body collapsed over in agony and pain, his eyes barely able to see. However, what he did see was a silhouette of the man standing above him. That is when Naruto pulled something out of his pouch as Neji got up. It was the handle of a blade. Applying chakra to the said handle, a white blade arrived, glowing and glistening, pure form of chakra in a rather concentrated matter. Naruto drive it through Neji's gut. Neji's eyes went wide as the pain kicked in as he started to squint once again. Naruto ripped the blade out as Neji collapsed over, unable to move an inch. Rather ironic, isn't it? That I'm basically using your own techniques against you. See this blade? It's a unique creation of mine. I have to say, your clan gave me the idea. Fighting you was a rather interesting thing that I've done. This blade does not harm the flesh. What it does harm is the chakra. And I know about that little point in your stomach that connect to all of your chakra points. And I just hit that. So right now, your body is unable to perform or do anything chakra-wise. Give it a few hours though, and I'm sure that you will be back to normal. Neji was unable to move on the ground as he was in pain. As Naruto crouched down and picked him up by the shirt. I know you can't see me now, but what about that fate that we spoke about earlier? Wasn't it my fate to lose, and yet here I stand, victorious? I guess you are wrong. Because as I said before, fate doesn't mean crap. People decide their own fate. Take that with as much grain as rice as you want. Doesn't really bother me. As Naruto released him as Neji collapsed on his back, the audience was stunned. This match was a big loss to many. Countless people had placed majority of their holdings on Neji. an extreme amount. Some had the foresight, or maybe believing that Naruto was the underdog that would come out swinging, and some placed their bets on him. And in a few short minutes, he packed Neji up, the prodigy of the Hyuga clan, the one that was said to be undefeatable, to best all the upcoming Genins. Some had said. However, the one they thought that was weak defeated him without a stagnant of injuries or pain. Everyone was shocked. Hiruzen could only sigh. Naruto had no idea what he just did. That seal that he created to mess with the Hyuga eyes, they were going to have a real problem with that. While he could create what he desired, but it was a direct effect to something of his own village, and it was going to be a problem. However, given what he had said about the chakra, Hiruzen think there was a way to go around it. As Naruto made his way, people couldn't help but applaud and cheers, but not as many because many of them lost a whole deal of cash. Ino, on the other hand, she was cheering for him without any shame or anything. All Sakura could do was smile. She finally got Ino off her back. Sasuke was all hers because Ino truly liked Naruto. But Sakura was actually happy for them. Naruto was a friend of hers. And as much as she and Ino had problems in the past, she didn't want that to be the problem between them anymore. They could become friends once again, because they no longer had anything to put them against each other. So that made her happy. Hayashi got to his feet as he saw Neji being carried away, as he made his way to have a conversation with the boy. It's time that he knew the truth. The entrance of Sasuke Uchiha left many feeling rather invested in their bets, believing that Sasuke was ready, believing that he had this one handled. After all, many had bet on the Uchiha, and now he pulled up like Gaara was going to be cut down without hesitation. Kankuro had gave up, which was rather odd. He didn't even want to fight. Naruto noticed that, as that did not seem rather normal. Something seemed wrong. Tamara, his sister, had fight. Just from watching, Naruto could tell that something was not right here. As the battle down below began, Sasuke came in, showing that over the break, his speed had reached surprising heights. Yes, it was rather shocking. Sasuke was able to upgrade his speed so much as Lee was baffled, as he couldn't believe it. All his training, and yet, in just 1 month, Sasuke was able to adapt to that speed, and even past it. As Gaara was having a difficult time keeping up with the Uchiha. While many people was watching the match, many was also thinking about the final result. There was no way the girl from the sand could win against the Uchiha. However, it didn't look like she would win against Naruto. That meant they were going to be in the finals. After watching the match with him and Neji, most people were unsure at first. They would say that Sasuke had this in the bag, but, well, it didn't look so anymore. That was until Sasuke pulled out Kakashi's famous technique. Guy was surprised that Kakashi would teach him that. Thrusting down the hall, Sasuke came down with a vengeance. He came down with a fury unlike any other, with the intent to take Gaara out. There was no if or but. Chidori! That was when all hell broke loose. As Naruto felt the influence, however, he was prepared for all kind. There was a seal tattooed on the back of his hand that started to glow. The very sign or threat of anyone trying to place him under control. It zapped him awake. As Naruto watched feathers falling all over the village, people were being put into an unconscious state. Two explosions went off. Kankuro jumped down. So did Temari as she glided on her fan. Everything was being thrown into chaos. Ninjas started to erupt from the stands as a battle started to take place within the village. The sound ninjas that Naruto had captured did not have much information. Orochimaru would not send them in the den of the lion with everything that he knew. However, they did know some. Thus, Hiruzen was more than prepared for this, believing that there would be something during the exams. The sound ninjas were surprised, confused mostly as well, as the Konoha ninjas were prepared. The sand ninjas were being pushed back as well. However, it wasn't that Orochimaru convinced the Kazekage. It was that he was the Kazekage. It took a few minutes for that to be found out. The sand ninjas realizing that they screwed up and they had to leave. During that time, Gaara went straight to the forest. Naruto saw the Uchiha making his way out there, knowing that if Gaara were to transform, he would die. And he right now was a bigger threat than these ninjas here. Besides, his Fuinjutsu would come in handy for the tail beasts. As Naruto made his way, unfortunately though, Ino and Sakura, who was sitting together, followed as well. As Sasuke was out there, so Sakura went. Naruto was there as well, her teammate. Ino went out there as well to make sure that everyone was fine, as she was worried about Naruto. Both girls were chasing after where they had went. However, they came across Kankuro. He was face first in a tree. His body seemed to be in agony as he was twitching ever so often. They kept on moving. When they arrived, they saw it was Temari, but she was fine. She looked terrified though as they heard a roar. Both girls looked on in shock as they saw Gaara partially transform. However, it was then that Naruto arrived in front of him and delivered a punch that seemed to knock him senseless. Sasuke delivered a brutal uppercut as Naruto appeared above and dropped his hands into Gaara's head. Sasuke spun and dropped his knee right into Gaara's face when he came back down. Sasuke fly through hand sign and release a giant fireball jutsu that squelched where Gaara landed. Naruto threw up a seal that contained the fireball as he infused it with wind. Gaara screamed out as he was being cooked alive. However, he exploded out just to show the power of the weakest tail beast. As Naruto landed Gaara, his body melting and partially crystallized, he launched towards Naruto. However, a kunai flew past Naruto and itched into his side. Boom! It sent him sailing. Both Naruto and Sasuke turned as the two girls were standing there. Ino's arm was outstretched. Naruto looked at them like they were crazy. "What the hell are you two doing here?" he said. "We wanted to help," Sakura said. "Then you shouldn't have come," Sasuke said, knowing that this guy would use anything to his advantage. "Stay where you are," said Naruto, as he was talking to the both of them. "He will kill you both without a hesitation." Gaara came exploding back out. "Uzumaki!" he screamed. Most of his rage seemed to be on Naruto. "I'll make you suffer and feed your blood to mother," he said. Naruto held his hand out as he took out his handle blade. As the blade ignites, he motioned for Gaara to come. Gaara was fast, he was strong, he was vicious. However, everyone was surprised when they realized that Naruto was almost, if not even a bit faster than Sasuke, with just raw speed. All of the advancement of using Sage Mode on a constant, his body had evolved. When he started to push himself, he was twice as fast as Sasuke. Gaara crashed through several trees All the sand was falling off him as the chakra was becoming rather unstable. The sand had littered the entire place. Gaara got up with a fit of rage when he noticed the two girls standing a distance away. As he noticed the sand on the ground, a smile came on his face. The best way to make the Uzumaki suffer as he watched Uchiha and the Uzumaki running after him. Naruto turned as he heard a scream. Sakura fell off the branch as she crashed to the ground. Ino was being held in the ear by Gaara-san. Naruto's gaze turned towards Gaara. "No," he said. However, Gaara simply smiled. "And now, as I said, I'll make you suffer, Uzumaki," he said, a smile of delight on his face. Ino screamed. As Gaara clenched his fist, Naruto shot off. Having no choice, Naruto slashed directly through the sand and slashed through Ino as well, disrupting her chakra flow. But he also slashed the sand right off her. Naruto caught her in his arms. Ino! Ino! Her arms and legs were broken. However, she was not responding. Naruto placed his head down to her heart as he felt for a pulse, but there was nothing. "No, no, 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 no! Ino!" he kept on shouting. There was nothing there. Her heart, it wasn't beating. He tried to heal her as he held his hand out. However, something was wrong. The sage energy, it wasn't doing anything. Everything froze in that moment. The world seemed to went quiet. Everything just froze. The whole world stood still for Naruto, as nothing came from Ino. Sasuke was rushing over towards him, calling his name out as Gaara shot another volley of sand towards him. The sand wrapped around Naruto and lifted him in the sky. Sakura, who had fallen off, quickly jumped up. She landed over Ino as her eyes went wide. She placed her head to her chest when she heard it. A heartbeat. However, it was extremely slow. It was the adrenaline from being crushed by Gaara-san and Naruto chakra blade. Disrupting her chakra, there was a backlash in her system, causing her heartbeat to slow down immensely, almost putting her into a state of hibernation. The chakra in her system had been overwhelmed by the adrenaline and the clash and the rush, slowing her heartbeat down. As Naruto, mind was working so fast. Time was something that he had not even focused on. And there was another problem as well. The smallest touch of anger brought something so dreadful, so vile, so disgusting, it seemed to affect the very earth itself. Every single summoning animal came to an utter stop. All of them. Even Yamahiro, who was slicing up the massive snakes, came to a stop as he turned his gaze. Boom! Gaara-san exploded outwards. And in that very moment, every participant within the Fire Nation and beyond felt fear like they've never experienced ever before. It drenched through their system. It baffled their mind. It shaped their very existence. All fighting came to a stop for that single moment. Hiruzen paused. Orochimaru paused. As Naruto released a roar from the depths of his soul. The very space around him seemed to shatter with such force as the energy enveloped him. Gaara, for the first time in a long while, felt true fear as he stepped away. However, immediately he drew upon the power so much that Shikaku felt it as he lashed on and came out. As Naruto was pulling on this energy that seemed to far surpass even Violet's power. This strong, deadly energy, every single tree and plant. It was like life itself was being killed. Sakura grabbed Ino and moved away as ever branch and trees were being destroyed. Sasuke jumping away, Temari jumping away. Kankuro, who was a distance away as he was holding his wounded side and his shoulder, looked around as everything was dying. "What the hell?" he said. Meanwhile, Violet, who was stuck inside of the ball, she was screaming as she could feel her father's anger. She could feel her father's rage. She could feel it all. She wanted to help him. She wanted to help him. The one that claimed to be her brother was no longer here. He was no longer in their dimension. Violet's eyes started to glow. Her hair started to glow her very skin. She released a scream that broke sound and space around her. The condensed ball of darkness started to swell. Violet erupted. She imploded her own self. As her body, boom! The ball exploded as Violet gave it everything. However, she did not came out of it. All that came out was a whips of purple energy that came to the real world, where they were. Said purple energy looked around, moving, searching, until it saw. It fluttered down and flew into Ino, causing Sakura to dress back. Ino's eyes opened up. "Where am I?" she said. As Violet was in front of her and grabbed her by the face. "Do you remember me?" she said. "My name is Violet. My father, he's in trouble. I need your help." Ino blinked as she looked at the girl. Meanwhile, Shikaku was wondering what this was. As Naruto stood in the air, his hair had become completely black. His eyes were white and soulless. The sage marking surrounded his eyes and ran down his cheek. Even his clothing had changed, black and white. As he stood there, he looked down towards the great beast. He then moved. Shikaku was confused because the beast could not understand what just happened. One moment it was on the ground, the next moment it found itself a very high distance in the air. Shikaku was plummeting down with a dreadful force. However, it suddenly stopped. Shikaku was confused as he was being held up in the air. Naruto stood under the beast. With only one hand he held Shikaku up, like it was nothing, given the magnitude and size of the beast. Every participant within the exams, every people within the region could see. As a massive beast was just floating there, Hyugas extended their range, and they were shocked to what they saw. Reporting back, as people were baffled to hear who was doing all of this. The marks on his face were still there, which made them identify him, but most of his features were different now. But the marks were there though. Naruto then pulled his hand down. Before he thrust his hand upwards, Shikaku was split in half. A wave of energy ripping him as both halves slammed down, clattering everything down below. Naruto stood there, his eyes looking lifeless. All he wanted was just to destroy everything. He held his hand up. Animals started to die. More plants, nature started to waver. Nature started to die. Meanwhile, that was taking place. The brother of Violet was smiling as he stood at the epicenter. A wall of darkness behind him, and in front of him was a green wall. He watched as the green wall was shattering. Yes, more, he said. As he reached in and slashed at the green wall, it broke. He laughed as nature itself wavered in that moment. All the summoning creatures in tune with nature could feel it. The toads were affected, and they were scared. They were frightened by this. As Naruto looked down towards Shikaku, space started to be affected as he created an orb the size of Shikaku. Said orb looked like it was made from ink. However, it suddenly started to break apart, cracking. Before, around 50,000 spikes from that orb could be seen. He dropped his hand as Shikaku tried to release a powerful gust from his mouth. However, the technique simply tore through it like a rain of death. Shikaku howled out because this was causing him terrible pain. It was hurting the tail beast, physical or not, chakra or not. Shikaku howled out as his body was being ripped to shreds. To make sure that he doesn't die with his host, Shikaku pulled Gaara inside as he used the strongest part of his body to protect him. However, Shikaku's body was reduced to 10% of what it truly was. Those strange spikes, they didn't only impale but they destroy. That is what his power was. It was pure destruction, not explosion or violent blasts. It was destroying matter, destroying space, and maybe soon even time. Naruto landed as Shikaku was extremely small, about the size of a one-story house. Gaara was inside, safely away from all of this. "What are you? You're not human," Shikaku said, trying to understand what was this thing in front of him. His body needed time to regenerate to gather back all that power, as majority of his chakra was destroyed. Shikaku didn't want to be erased as he started back away. For the first time in a very long while, a tail beast was experiencing fear, but he wasn't the only one. Inside of Naruto's seal, Kurama was watching all of this. Kurama could see and feel everything outside. The seal felt like it was not working in this time period. It wasn't only that though. Kurama started to see flickers around, red and gold, as he felt their chakra. Impossible, he thought. As Shikaku started to move, Naruto held his hand out, as a blade formed in his hand, coming from his very skin, the black markings. As he bent, this strange source of energy into a physical form. Shikaku spat sand bullets at a crazy rate. Naruto split one in half before dodging several others. Once again he did it. He appeared in front of Shikaku in the blink of an eye. He then plunged the blade in Shikaku's chest. Shikaku threw Gaara out of him, hoping that someone would be there to stop this monster. Gaara collapsed on the ground as Shikaku's soul returned back in the seal. With what little chakra it had left, it will take a long while to reform. Gaara's eyes opened up as Naruto stepped towards him. Gaara looked fearful as he looked at the thing in front of him. "No, stay away. Stay away from me," he said. "I won't let you erase my existence. Stay away," he screamed. However, Naruto kept on walking without a word, without any reaction. As he stepped, things were dying. As the blade dragged into the ground was being destroyed, physically, in every sense of the form. Destruction at its purest form. He stepped forward. It seems like what he created was just more than sage mode, while it was an energy of the sage as well. As people beyond him could practice it, but they would never reach the state that he was in right now. It was also a power that stretched far beyond that. A power that rises A power that peaked seemed to have no limits. There was no limitation. The more he stepped, the stronger his power seemed to rise. And the more the natural energy into the area, into the environment, into this world started to die out. Massive tremors went through the ground as a massive toad was making its way over to where they were. Jiraiya was confused when the toad suddenly leaped away as he started to rush towards the scene as well. "Naruto, stop!" A voice shouted as Naruto turned. Standing there was Ino Yamanaka, her purple eyes glowing, her hair floating, her entire body surrounded by Violet's power. She stepped forward. Without even blinking, Naruto sliced at her. However, she dodged it as she watched everything behind her destroyed. She ran forward, dodging his swipes. He held his blade out as he started to push more power towards it. However, his hand hesitated for the briefest of seconds, which allowed Ino to throw herself towards him. She wrapped her arms around him as she held him in her embrace. "Please, stop this. I know that you won't hurt me." His blade was coming down to rip through her back. However, it stopped right at that moment as the purple aura started to flood into him, fighting off against what was currently inside of him. He started to scream as Ino released him. His right hand gripped his left as he threw the blade away. It turned into dust before it hit the ground, like nothing was there. He gripped his skull as he screamed, trying to push, trying to fight it off. "Do it. You can do it, father," Ino suddenly said, as there was two voices coming from her, one of Violet and one of Ino's. Ino was currently being controlled by Violet to a sense. Violet power had healed her body. Yes, it had restarted her chakra flow and healed her body, but Violet had to basically destroy herself to get free, and it would take some time for her to regain her full power. Not a lot of time, but some time. She needed a host, and her father cared deeply for this one. That is why she inhabited this one. She knew that she would be willing to help, to do anything to save her father. As Naruto dropped to the ground, slowly, the energy started to leave him. Meanwhile, that was going on. Violet's brother stood there. One would think that he might be upset, however, all he did was smile. As he started to walk away, he noticed Violet's little corner, her energy, starting to grow once again. But all he did was smile. As he returned back into the shadows, he was up to something. Something very big. As he went away just like that, like he was never there to begin with. However, as Naruto collapsed downwards, "Is he gonna be alright?" Ino suddenly said. "Don't worry, he's fine." He was able to fight him off. That was the best we could hope for. Violet's voice came out as Ino released a breath. She was happy to hear that. Extremely so. As she stood there, boom! The massive toad came down. As Naruto looked up, confused, weak, the toad tongue shot outwards. "Leave him alone!" Both voices came out. However, the toad swallowed Naruto and then poofed away. It was at that moment Jiraiya landed down. As he noticed, he looked at Ino confused. It was the same feeling. "Violet?" he said, confused. Meanwhile, the toad returned to Mount Miyaboku. As all the toads were gathered, Gamahiro opened his mouth. Rolling off his tongue was the unconscious Naruto. As he collapsed on the ground, unmoving, he seemed to be asleep. All the toads gathered around and looked down towards the unconscious boy on the ground as their gaze went up towards the two smaller toads moving to their location, Ma and Pa. Pa and Ma came over as they examined the boy. This is him, the one that is causing all of that destruction, Ma said. Gamehiro nodded his head. I brought him here. I could feel what was going on even. Being near into the village, the trees, the nature, it was all dying. The toads looked down towards him once again. What are we going to do? We have no other choice, Fukazaku said as he looked down. The boy must die. But guys, be in subscribe right here. If you want to see next part and do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification as they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. But I'm off for now. See you guys soon. Peace.